Good afternoon and welcome to the third Investor Education Webinar hosted by the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. Before we get started, I must state that we are not here to tell you where you should invest or how to make more money. We are here to ensure that you have the information you need in order to make sound investment decisions. To learn about the different types of investment scams, know the warning signs associated with these scams, become aware of the ways to safeguard yourself against scams, and to know how to lodge a complaint with the TTSEC. We have a poll question for you. Have you ever heard of the TTSEC prior to finding out about this webinar? The Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission, or TTSEC, is the sole regulator of the nation's capital market. This includes the market for stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Our fellow regulator in the financial services sector is the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, which regulates the banking and insurance sectors. Both entities report to the Minister of Finance. As at July 2014, the value of the securities market was 253.87 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars. This represents 157.07% of the gross domestic product. The Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission is the regulatory body mandated to look after the interests of investors in Trinidad and Tobago. We administer the Securities Act of 2012 to protect you by registering all persons who deal in securities. Check the list of registrants on our website www.ttsec.org.tt before engaging in any securities transaction. We ensure the necessary information is disclosed by the market participant both to the Commission and to the potential investor. We conduct routine market surveillance and investigate possible breaches of the Act, as well as complaints against any registered or unregistered person conducting its securities business. We ensure that registrants are operating in compliance with the legislation, and we conduct on-site inspections of registrants and self-regulatory organizations. The Commission also enforces rules through the use of orders and compliance directions. We also conduct a multimedia investor education program designed to provide investors and potential investors with suitable information to guide informed decisions. Our investor education program is guided by the International Organization of Securities Commission, IOSCO. IOSCO has long recognized investor education as a key strategy for enhancing investor protection, promoting investor confidence, and fostering investor engagement in financial planning and decision-making. Our investor education program is also guided by our legislation, the Securities Act of 2012, which mandates that we educate and promote an understanding by the public of the securities industry and the benefits, risks, and liabilities associated with investing in securities. Here's another poll question for you. Have you or anyone you ever known been a victim of a financial scam? Many persons believe that they can never be taken in by a scam artist. Unfortunately, our records show just how easy it is to fall victim to a conman. We know that investors are seeking safe havens to place their monies. Unfortunately, this situation also brings out the opportunists who are trying to steal even the last dollar from persons who are not equipped to differentiate between real investment instruments and fraudulent ones. Today's scams are really clever and creative. Here are some examples of the most common scams and strategies to help you from becoming a victim. Con artists reach out to millions of victims on the internet. They offer risky investment opportunities to unsophisticated investors who are generally unable to evaluate risk adequately and can least afford to lose their capital. Potential investors cannot always determine whether the information is true or false. Think of how difficult it is for you to get redress in Trinidad and Tobago when you can face the person who sold you a defective item. It will be even more difficult to get redress when you lose money and have to try to trace it through the internet scammer. The term boiler room refers to an outbound call center selling questionable investments by telephone. In this room, salesmen work using unfair, dishonest sales tactics. Mandatory sales meetings are held every day, at which time sales techniques are demonstrated and scripts for the firm's house stocks are distributed. The scam artists are expected to follow the scripts and only give customers the information these scripts contain. The brokers of the boiler room actually create a market by attracting buyers whose demand for the stock drives up the price. This gives the owners of the company enough volume to sell their shares at a profit. These schemes can become prevalent when there is low financial literacy among investors. Some scammers set up a website in one country, operate from another country, and target victims in a third country, hiding their identity and make it very difficult to trace them. Pump and dump schemes involve scam artists making false or misleading positive statements about cheap stocks that they already own. This then generates a demand for the stock amongst their victims. The greater the demand, the higher the price, thereby artificially inflating the price. The increased demand, price, and trading volume of the stock may convince more people to believe the hype and buy the shares as well. When the price is high enough, the scam artist then sells the cheaply purchased stock at the higher price. Once the operators of the scheme dump their overvalued shares, the price falls and investors lose their money. Whilst fraudsters in the past relied on cold calls, the Internet now offers a cheaper and easier way of reaching large numbers of potential investors. If a promoter's campaign to pump a stock is successful, it will entice unwitting investors to purchase shares of the target company. When the promoters behind the scheme sell or dump their shares and they stop promoting the stock, the price plummets and other investors are left holding stock that is worth significantly less than what they paid for it. To protect yourself from these types of scams, you should ask yourself, are these securities registered with the TTSEC? Note, do not believe any seller who tells you that these investments are not subject to securities regulation. Is the person a registered broker or dealer? Who are the principals in the business and how long have they been in the business? Where is the business located? Is there prospectus detailing the investment opportunity from the company? If not, why not? Has there ever been any complaints filed against the company or the principals with the securities regulators or lawsuits filed by other investors? The old adage, birds of a feather flock together, forms the basis of affinity fraud. This scam often happens in social groups. It usually starts by a con artist quietly joining your club, religious group or community group. Once they gain your trust, they will try to convince you that a fraudulent investment scheme is legitimate and encourage you to participate. Usually, these con artists first sell only to a few prominent members of the community and then pitch the scam to the rest of the group by using these names of those who purchased previously. They will then scam you, your friends, or your family and just as quietly disappear. This scam often goes unreported as groups typically opt to work it out amongst their members. Victims of affinity fraud are usually from minority groups, religious groups, or are elderly people. So how can you protect yourself? Well, ask for written information. Do not rely on the testimony of others, regardless of how well you know them. Call the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission, the TTSEC, or visit our website to ensure the authenticity of the investment and the person selling it. Report any fraudulent activity to the TTSEC. Here's your poll question. Have you ever heard of a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme? These schemes share many similar characteristics in which unsuspecting individuals are fooled by unscrupulous schemers who promise extraordinary returns. Ponzi schemes are based on fraudulent investment management services. Basically, investors contribute money to the portfolio manager, who promises them an exceptional return. And then, when those investors want their monies back, they are paid with the incoming funds contributed by incoming investors. The person organizing this type of fraud is in charge of controlling the entire operation, and they merely transfer funds from one client to another and forego any real investment activities. A pyramid scheme can be likened to robbing Peter to pay Paul. The scheme involves the exchange of money and the necessity to enroll other people into the scheme. High returns are usually promised with no product or service being delivered. Pyramid schemes normally include investments paying monthly interest rates that are attractive because they are above market rates, programs running for a defined period, commonly 1 year or less, the promoters who usually encourage you to roll over into a new program when the scheme has run its course rather than take your money out of the scheme, and the promoter uses new investors' monies to pay out to persons who wish to leave the scheme. Remember, any scheme that requires new investors to pay in existing investors is a fraud. This diagram shows that the model on which a pyramid scheme is premised is non-sustainable. The first tier of investors numbers 6 persons, who in turn have to bring in 6 more persons into the scheme. Those 36 persons also have to enroll 6 persons each, and so on. The funds brought in by each tier pays the tier above. When the con works, it appears as if the investment is legitimate and performing as represented by the promoter. The only catch is that more people have to be recruited all the time. Inevitably, new people stop joining, and since it is the funds from the new persons that keeps the pyramid going, the pyramid begins to totter. Since there is no more money to pay out, you and countless others will lose your investment. Newly enrolled persons get nothing. Persons who rolled over their money get nothing. And the only persons who get in early and got out, of course the promoter, are the ones smiling all the way to the bank. Here's your poll question. Do you know the name Bernie Madoff? The most infamous Ponzi scheme in recent times involves Bernie Madoff, who, excuse the pun, made off with persons' money. He was the chairman of Nasdaq Stock Exchange, a former stockbroker, and a former financial advisor. He was convicted of operating a Ponzi scheme that has been called the largest investor fraud ever committed by a single person. Prosecutors estimated the size of the fraud to be $64.8 billion based on the amounts in the accounts of Madoff's 4,800 clients as of November 30th, 2008. On June 29th of 2009, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison and $170 billion in restitution. I'm sure many of you would have heard of Alan Stanford, who was a prominent financier and sponsor of professional sports. He was the chairman of the now-defunct Stanford Financial Group of companies and is a citizen of Antigua and Barbuda and the United States, who contributed millions of dollars to politicians in both countries. In 2009, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission charged Stanford with running a massive Ponzi scheme. On March the 6th of 2012, Stanford was convicted of perpetrating a U.S. $7 billion Ponzi scheme that swindled 30,000 people in over 100 countries, and he was sentenced to 110 years in prison. Of course, what happens in more established countries tends to happen right here in Trinidad and Tobago. Our local pyramid scheme involved a company called Fantasy Tours. This was essentially a tour company which was involved in a pyramid scheme. It started in approximately November of 2005, offered 3 products paying up to 15% every 15 days, enlisted more than 3,700 subscribers. Their total investment was approximately $43.5 million TT dollars, and the TTSEC TTSEC became aware of the scheme when one of the members came to us after having invested because he felt a little unsure about his investment. Of course, this company was not registered with the TTSEC to do any form of business. The TTSEC had to approach the courts in the matter. An injunction was granted by the court to halt trading on the request of the Commission, and the final recovery by investors was 53.4% or 23.2 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars. Do not expect to get rich quickly. If an investment sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Most bad deals offer high yields and meaningless talk of guarantees with zero risk. The promise of high returns almost always implies high levels of risk. Be suspicious of any investment opportunity that seems very complicated. This often is intentional, for it encourages consumers to make the investment on faith without really understanding what is involved. Ask an investment advisor or accountant to review the prospectus with you. Promoters who resist this kind of review must be treated with suspicion. They want you to trust them without seeking professional counsel. Always check to see if the scheme is registered with the TTSEC. Let's watch the following investment scam video.
Good afternoon and welcome one and all. I am Mr. Smith. I'm a financial consultant here to provide you with a fantastic investment opportunity. Now, financial institutions will never tell you how easy it is to make money, but they will only give you a little bit of interest and keep the profit for themselves. But I have your interest at heart, so I am sharing with you this wonderful opportunity for all of us to make money. Each one of you had to bring 2 persons with you today. Each person will give me a minimum of $20,000, and within 1 year, you will get your money back with 15% interest. But imagine 5 persons who put in their money last year will receive their money today. See how easy that is? Now, persons can always choose to reinvest their money, or they can take only what they got this time. The choice is yours.
You notice, no one asked what the investment was in. No one asked if the investment was registered. Mr. Smith did not provide anything in writing. Be a smart and informed investor. Don't be afraid to ask the correct questions. Understand the investment product and ensure that it is registered with the TTSEC. Obtain written documents. Remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Call 624-2991 or visit www.ttsec.org.tt to learn more. A message from the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission.
And we can't stress this enough. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Every investment has some risk involved. There's a big difference, though, between taking a risk on a well-researched investment and tricked into losing your money. Here are 6 key things that you should know in order to make wise investment decisions and protect yourself from fraud. Know the source. Ignore the emails and telephone calls from people or companies you don't know offering investments. Be careful. Scam artists often use company names that are similar to well-known companies. Avoid hot tips and inside information. Hot tips usually don't work out. If someone says they have inside information, don't trust them. Even if it is true, it is illegal to use it. Also, watch out for cheap stocks. They are often manipulated to drive prices up. Then they crash and your stock is worthless. Choose your advisor wisely. There are different kinds of advisors offering different advice on products. Make sure that your advisor is registered. If you take the time to find a good advisor who is right for you, you are much more likely to make good investment decisions. Learn more. The more you know about investing, the easier it is to make good investment decisions. Don't buy an investment product that you do not understand. Be willing to say no. Good advisors won't try to pressure you. Only say yes when you know the person, understand the investment, and feel that it is right for you. If your instincts tell you no, listen. Look at the future, not just the past. Past performance of an investment is not necessarily any indication of how it will do in the future. Some investments that do very well one year or even over a period of years can do very poorly later on. Remember, scams come in a variety of sizes and forms. The scams that catch most people look sophisticated and even include attractively presented documents which look legitimate. The internet has allowed scam artists to have achieved a global reach with creation of websites which the intended victims are invited to view. Remember, bad information can lead to bad choices. Scams can be very convincing and genuine. Never give out personal information, including bank account numbers or access codes, to a stranger. The best way to protect yourself is to always check everything you hear. To avoid losses, get the best information you can from the best sources. If you're not sure what to do, talk to a registered advisor or get in touch with the TTSEC. Always listen to your instincts and use your head. If something sounds too good to be true, it most likely is. How to lodge a complaint. The Commission has the authority to investigate and adjudicate all complaints lodged with it under Section 49 of the Act. The staff of the Commission reviews and investigates all complaints and tips related to the securities industry, including but not limited to those made against registrants. These are brokers and dealers, investment advisors, underwriters, and reporting issuers. Here's the process for lodging a complaint. Step 1. Make your complaint to the company. Step 2. Get the company's response to your complaint in writing. Step 3. Lodge a complaint with the Commission. And Step 4. The Commission will review your written complaint. Visit our website www.ttsec.org.tt for more information on this process. If you fall victim to a financial scam, inevitably all you are left with are broken promises. Don't let this be your nest egg. Don't be fooled into parting with your hard-earned cash. The only thing standing between a fraudster and your money is you. Remember these 3 simple rules. Ask questions, be aware or rather beware of investment fraud, and consult with a registered broker or advisor. Here's your poll question. Have you ever visited the TTSEC's website? On behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission, thank you for participating in our 3rd Investor Education Webinar. Your feedback is important to us, so feel free to send an email with your comments and suggestions to ccei@ttsec.org.tt. I hope you have a productive day and happy investing.